Hey Pokemon fans, Real Mama Eagle here, also known as Key, and today I'm here to talk to you about 15 Pokemon that I think are very mistyped. These are Pokemon that look like different types, may have the persona of another type, or just don't fit what they were given. Before we get into this list, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below and let me know what Pokemon you think are mistyped. Now let's get started. Number 15. Dunsparce. Now, you've heard me rant about Dunsparce on this channel before, and you're probably tired of it at this point, but look, it needs another typing. Now, Dunsparce Pokedex entry does mention that in the past it could fly, hinting that it could be a dragon or potentially a bug, but Game Freak decided it would be best suited as normal type. Even in Gen 9, when Dunsparce got an evolution to the Dunsparce, they still could have taken the time to buff it and give it a proper typing. I think Dunsparce should be bug type, dragon, or both, but instead they stick it with dull normal, where you pretty much have limited moves and limited stats as a result. Number 14. Audino. Now, I understand Gen 5 Audino being normal type because fairy type technically didn't exist yet, but once Generation 6 came and we got those really dope mega evolutions, they decided to give Audino a mega fairy type but not make it full-time fairy, which makes no sense because when you look at Audino, it literally resembles a fairy Pokemon. It's very similar to Chansey, to Jigglypuff, to Clefairy, and those Pokemon all got changed pretty much to fairy type in later generations, as well as Snubbull and Gramble, but they decided not to do that for Audino for whatever reason. Definitely a Pokemon that is mistyped and should be fairy. Number 13. Gligar. When I first saw Gligar in Generation 2, I was really confused because I saw a little bat-like, scorpion-like flying specimen that was flying in ground, and that never made sense to me. If you look at Gligar's appearance, it's very bug-like, very scorpion-like, and very purple, which is usually what poison Pokemon look like. I mean, look at Weezing, look at Grimer, Muck, etc. They're all purple. Poison, right? You would think. But no, ground and flying. Don't get me wrong, a good combination in competitive and battle, but I personally would have made it poison and flying, or maybe even bug and poison because it resembles that. I think because they had the wings that wanted to focus on flying type, but they really missed the mark by not making this an awesome poison Pokemon. Number 12. Florges. Now, I adore Florges, and it's one of my favorite Pokemon in the Gen 6 Pokedex, but I never understood why it was just fairy type. Don't get me wrong, fairy typing is perfect for that evolution line. It's very fairy-like, very soft, very ethereal, but it's literally surrounded in leaves and flowers, and all three variants in that evolution should be part grass in addition to fairy. Think about it. Can learn fairy terrain, can also learn grassy terrain, can also learn other grass-type moves in addition to their fairy moves. So making it grass and fairy would have been a much better opportunity and much more fitting given its design. Number 11. Lugia. Lugia has had so many issues from my perspective from day one because it never made sense. It's psychic and flying type, but there's so many issues with that because Lugia is literally referred to as a dragon and as the guardian of the sea that shows up during storms. So it should be dragon and water typing, just like Kingdra. You would think that that's where they would have gone with it because logistically, appearance-wise and personality-wise, it makes the most sense. Now, I understand that Lugia leads the other legendary birds, meaning it would have some sort of telepathy or other psychic features or, abilities, but it doesn't really make sense to take the obvious things away. And they really missed the mark not making it dragon and water, and they just really took away from what the lore behind it is. Number 10, 9, and 8. Gyarados, Charizard, and Melodic. You're probably asking why I'm putting 3 Pokemon on a list together, but it's very obvious what these 3 things are lacking. They're not dragon-type Pokemon. Charizard, Melodic, and Gyarados all clearly represent or resemble dragons, but instead they decided to make Gyarados and Charizard part flying and Melodic just water, which makes absolutely no sense because all 3 literally look like dragons and can all learn dragon type moves. With Gyarados and Charizard, I think Game Freak was just too afraid to make them both OP in Gen 1, but with high enough levels, you could beat them anyway. And as far as Melodic goes, there's really no excuse because by the time Gen 3 rolled around, there was an answer to take out Dragon in case it was too OP. So these 3 Pokemon should be dragons, and I'm very mad about it. Number 7. Goodra. Goodra is one of my favorite Pokemon in the Gen 6 Dex and one of my favorite dragons altogether. But when I first looked at Goodra and saw its drippy purple skin, I never understood why they didn't make it poison type in addition to dragon. Probably because they have Draugage in the same gen, they didn't want to have 2 poison dragons. Maybe that was their logic. But honestly, it fits Goodra's description, and it's another ability that could counteract all those fairy Pokemon of that generation, given as though dragon's weak to fairy. So definitely a missed opportunity to me with Goodra. Number 6. Drapion. Now, when I first saw Drapion in Generation 4, I actually liked the design of it, that bug-like purple design, really, really cool, pretty intimidating, but it's not a bug type. It's poison and dark. I understand they wanted to combine two really cool types and make a really cool Pokemon, but it's literally a scorpion. Game Freak, you didn't have to overthink this and make Drapion dark type. You should have just made it poison and bug because that was fitting and made more sense and is very representative of an actual scorpion. Why, Game Freak, why? Number 5. Grapploct. I actually liked Grapploct a lot when I saw it in Generation 8. You know, an octopus, very intimidating, ready to fight you. I totally get why they made it fighting type because it looks like a brawler. What my issue with this typing is, however, is that they didn't add more to it because it's an octopus. Because of its ink or because of the fact that it's in the water, you could have literally combined either poison or water type with fighting type and made it a little bit more versatile. I think that would have made perfect sense given that it's an octopus. Just another instance of Game Freak maybe overthinking a bit, trying to be a little bit too creative with it as opposed to just not doing what made sense. Number 4, Greninja. Now this is hard for me because if you know me, Greninja is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Adore the design, adore it to pieces. The typing is wrong though. I understand that they wanted to make it kind of get that dark appearance because it's so intimidating, but why do they make it water and dark and not water and fighting? It's Greninja. Ninjas fight. It's literal, it's right there. They didn't need to overthink this or overdo it. They didn't need to be extra clever. Make it water and fighting. Now, the argument probably would have been they're tired of combining fighter types with starters, but they did make Chestnut grass and fighting, so what really was the excuse? You could have changed Chestnut's typing and gave Greninja the fighting typing because it would have been more literal and made more sense. Chestnut should have been ground and grass, but that's another story. But they definitely missed an opportunity not making Greninja water and fighting. Number 3, Tyranitar. Now, although I adore this Pokemon very much, I've always had a problem with the way it was typed. I don't have an issue with it being rock type because you generally find it in caves and it's got bumpy, rocky skin, so that part of it checks out. Dark typing, I don't really know why dark typing was forced on Tyranitar. I think because it was Gen 2 when they were introducing dark type and they wanted to have more Pokemon that were dark type to fit that or make them more available. I don't know what it may have been, but Tyranitar is clearly dragon, dinosaur, like, you know, very, very intimidating. It should have been rock and dragon. I don't know what they were thinking or why they tried to make it dark type, but again, this feels like a missed opportunity where in Gen 2, especially where dragon was really dominant, Tyranitar could have been even tougher than it already was. Number 2, Flygon. Flygon was tough because it's still a favorite to me to this day, one of the best Pokemon in Gen 3, hands down, but I've always had somewhat of a conflict with this typing. I understand it being part ground because you literally find it in the forest, and Trapinch basically starts out as ground, goes to Vibrava, and so on and so forth. But as much as I love dragon typing on Flygon, Flygon is actually more bug-like than dragon-like. If you look at its big eyes, very resemblance of a bug. Even Vibrava looked like a bug. So I feel like it should have been bug and ground versus bug and dragon. Number 1, Psyduck and Golduck. Do I even have to explain? This is the most obvious one, which is why it's number 1, but let's be serious here. Psyduck, Psychic, and it's only water type. And you think, you know what, maybe when it evolves to Golduck, it'll be psychic and water type. It's still water type. But you know what? Name it Psyduck and go to Golduck. Let them both learn psychic moves, but don't give it psychic typing. Well done, Game Freak, well done. How did you feel about my list and what Pokemon are mistyped to you? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ding that bell as well so you know when videos are going up. I am also Real Mama Eagle on all social media platforms, and I do live streams at twitch.tv/RealMamaEagle. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.